Something I've been putting off for a little while, mainly because there was no solution beyond the plastic valve covers, is the EcoBoost valve cover gaskets. I put new ones on only to find a crack in both sides not long ago. It's been leaking for a little while, but like very little. So I haven't had time to fix it, but I was waiting on another solution or try to figure something out, because the plastic ones just get brittle and crack eventually over time. So I didn't want to do it again just to do it again and again and again. So eventually, let me get in here where I have it set up. These metal guys came to the market and I started to jump on them and put them on, but I was not sure how good the fitment was and stuff. And the reviews, they're kind of 50-50. So I decided I had nothing probably to lose, so I gave them a shot. They come with their own gaskets, bolts and everything. The only downside I see just looking at the kit is the bolts aren't built into the head like the plastic ones, so you can lose bolts. So that's something to keep in mind. But we're going to install these. It's going to be I'm going to try to get one side done tonight, probably another side done another day when I have more time. It's also freezing out, so freezing for me in Alabama, it's decently chilly. We got new coil packs as well because the boots were dried out on the other ones. So those are Accell boots. These are off Amazon. The metal ones, I went with one of the ones that had better reviews. They hit a Black Friday sale, so just decided to pull the trigger. So we're going to get into it. And obviously I've already pulled the cover off, but first things first, take the oil cap off, pull the cover off, put the oil cap back on so you don't drop anything down. It is raining a little bit, like misty rain, so we're going to try to do this in not a hurry, but we're going to do this before it becomes worse. This is my work vehicle and the only vehicle I really drive normally, so we do need this back for tomorrow. So step one is going to be pulling that catch can loose and then pulling any lines loose that we know we don't need, pulling the coil packs loose. There's 3 coil packs per side. We're going to try to do one side tonight for the valve cover, and then if that doesn't work, then we may start and finish another day, as long as this rain doesn't get any heavier. Obviously, once we take it apart, we got to finish. So that is where we're at. Well, my intent was to set up my GoPro and do a time lapse and show y'all how to do this, but it's dead. It's still spitting rain, so I don't really have time to wait. So as you can see, we've moved everything out of the way. This is kind of the biggest thing in your way. And once you start getting these little pieces that are on top of the valve cover bolts, once you start getting those moved out of the way, you have enough room to kind of bring it forward and out. So next would be getting these coils out. We're going to leave the plugs in. There is some oil on these plugs, and I'll show y'all that here in a minute, from the gaskets failing on these coil packs. These coil packs are probably the original ones, judging by how nasty they look. But yeah, once you move all this out of the way, you got a little wiggle room to kind of get some of this stuff more out of the way, but you might have to kind of wiggle some more. But there's bolts all around the perimeter. Obviously you can see on the newer ones where the holes are to match up, but we're going to pull these coil packs, and then as soon as these coil packs are out, we'll get the bolts around here. I'll show you all just little tips and stuff on these cam position sensors and everything else, but just to look out, be really careful when you're unplugging this stuff because they are very brittle. It's the same crappy plastic as this, so just a little tip there. This is what I was talking about. The seals kind of collapsed between this and the valve cover, so this is actually letting oil in, and eventually it's kind of giving it a misfire. So new coil, old coil, obviously. You can see how like new and fresh this is and how collapsed and flat that is. That's letting oil in just by the design. So we're gonna have to vacuum that oil out around from the coil pack area and the spark plug, but that's the first one I pulled, and that's gonna be my misfire that I'm having. I knew about this because I pulled a couple of them a few weeks ago. When I checked the plugs, realized how much oil was in there, and that's what led me to kind of want to go ahead and get done with this project. Here you can kind of see, let's see, move this out of the way a little bit. See all that oil down in there? That's not good. So the plugs are new, but we have oil. So there's actually a seal right here, and it is very brittle. That should be rubber. That is brittle. So again, we'll remedy that as well. So we're gonna pull the rest of these coils. I'm sure they're probably not far off from how bad that one is. All right, so we have all the bolts loose, sensors loose, everything. I did not touch on this earlier. Hopefully you hadn't got to this point yet, but this sensor right here is very brittle. and it's held in by what I call a Jesus clip or a Jesus clip, whatever you want to call it. It's very important to hold the backside of that and take a pick and move it over. And that will free up a good bit of room to pull this thing out. So that's the key. I will caution, before you pull this out, if you have oil in these, obviously you can see how much oil was in them, and it's been dripping over time. It's gotten worse since the last time I changed the plugs. I'll caution you to go ahead and before you pull this, fully up, before you drop stuff in the motor, I would go ahead and get a vacuum and try to get all that oil out you can before you pull this head off. Because once you pull it off, you're more likely to knock something in the top end or whatever. Obviously, I need to change the oil, so I will do that probably later, but as cheap insurance. But everything is free right now, and then this swings up. You have a little bit of room. There's not much where that back point comes in, so you want to come up and toward this direction to get it out. And I will put a diagram at the beginning of this video. I'll go back and put a diagram of where the bolts are. So I'll show you the metal one straight up so you can see. I'll put a picture up of that with bolt sizes and all that in the description of just everything to make it easy. Pretty much it's a pick. I've used that little trim clip remover tool, an extension. I keep a magnet around, 8mm, 10mm short socket. That's all you need, essentially, to do this job. Everything else comes off. So that's all you need as far as right now. You will need a little RTV going back together, but we'll get to that later. You know what they say, necessity is the mother of invention. So this is too big to get down in there real good in that spark plug area to get all the oil out. So I happen to have this old funnel that hooks to a spout. So I just kind of electrical taped it to get enough suction, because that wasn't going to work otherwise. So we're in now. We're going to get this oil sucked out and then get this out of here. We'll get the old one in and out and the new one in. All right, as you can see, we got most of the oil out. There's still a little bit that I couldn't quite suck out. So we're gonna pop these plugs real quick, and then we're gonna spray some carb cleaner in there and put the plugs right back in. Then we will get this the valve cover off and get that done. All right, now it's starting to really rain, so we're gonna have to hustle up. We got mostly all the oil out of the cylinders now, cleaned up the spark plugs. There's a little bit down the bottom of that didn't get out. That's okay. We'll spray it out with some brake cleaner real quick and just let it dissolve. We're gonna take this out and then get that inside out of the rain. We're gonna swap over the necessary things that we need to, and then we're gonna get this new one on. All right, it's gonna be kind of loud because it's a tin roof building, so you're gonna hear the rain. Obviously it's raining, so we had to hustle up. Either way, we still need to transfer over nipples, these sensors to that as well. As you can tell, this thing has had enough. It's lived a hard life. This truck has 220,000 miles and climbing, so I'm gonna get this stuff swapped over. It's pretty easy to do. So obviously we're gonna unbolt these. I'm gonna check the threads and make sure the threads are right over here, because I don't necessarily trust with some of this stuff that the threads are the same and all that. So we're gonna check the threads, make sure they're good. If they are, we'll continue on. If not, we'll have to find the correct bolts, which I'm sure I have some laying around here somewhere. But as you can see, they're very similar. Obviously these are made with aluminum. So we won't have to worry about it cracking and this stuff leaking as well. Obviously where the, let me flip this over right quick. So you can see where how off those, where the coil packs are sitting. Some of them are pressed up, some of them are flush, some of them are crooked. It's pretty bad. So we'll get these flipped back around, but yeah, that was gonna be our leak right there. Is mostly those coil pack covers just pushed out. They get brittle after a while and just break. All right, so obviously these bolts are different from these. These are the screws that fit this, but I don't really like how I'm gonna add a washer to this, sorry. I'm gonna add a washer to these because I don't really like how small that is comparatively. So those fit that, we should be good there. I think the only thing I gotta figure out is if the coil pack bolts are still the same, if they're the same threads. If they are, then we're good. They included all the bolts necessary. Again, the big difference is these don't sit in that head. So you gotta be very careful when you put this thing back that you do one at a time and you get them to bite before you drop one in the inside of, down the engine bay or anything like that. because it's going to be very hard to find that with all the stuff down there. All right, to get this off, you just twist it. It goes counterclockwise. I took a pair of pliers. It was very gentle because that's probably pretty brittle plastic. They supplied this. That's screwed right in. Again, the screws work here. I went ahead and added washers because I don't really care for how that was sitting. That's just a personal preference. I'm sure it's fine. Those two sensors went in, and then the factory coil pack bolts work for here, so don't get rid of those. So we are essentially ready to put the gasket on and get this back in. The only problem being, it is now slacked up a little bit, but it rained enough to wet the ground and also the truck. So luckily my hood's up and it's not pouring sideways. So again, not the end of the world, but definitely not great either. So there is the top end exposed, and it looks pretty clean in there for 220,000 miles. At some point before I had this truck, somebody had the timing chain done. I'm about 95% sure. So at some point we'll probably have to do that again. Notes worth mentioning. If you see here, up here, you see where this RTV is? That is from the factory RTV. And there's several points, a couple being back there as well. So you need to pay very close attention to those and pull those loose, but also add more black silicone RTV when you go back together with this. That is how they did that from the factory. I'm guessing that's a sling point or just a low point, but I won't keep talking as much. But definitely worth noting that those need to be addressed. And I always try to put a little bit over that backside where the vacuum pump is. I did that a while back. That was one cause of the leak, and then the next secondary would be the valve cover. So we're gonna get this cleaned up, put back together, and then hopefully it won't rain anymore so we can get this done. We might get the other side done tonight, depending. I'm gonna look at the radar before I go any further, because that side's gonna be a little harder with the fuel pump on the top side. Not necessarily harder, just more stuff to take loose and be careful of. So we'll do that one last. That's why I started on this side. It's going to be easier. I've done it before. I've done that side before as well, just not in this truck. But this is what it looks like. And for those that always ask about the vacuum pump, because before I did it back through the backside over here on the wheel well, that is it. That's what you're looking at right there. So you can do it from the top side. I recommend doing it while you're in here if you hadn't already. But that's where we're at. All right, I had to jiggle this heater hose line kind of around a little bit, get it off that corner. As you can see, it kind of scuffed up the edge right there because the plastic kind of ate into it a little bit. That's my fault. I should have just moved that out of the way earlier, but I was being stubborn. The fit is pretty good so far. I mean, I'll know better once I get a few bolts started in it, but we're going to start all the bolts and then tighten them up in kind of a, backwards or up alternating fashion. But so far so good. Everything lines up and looks pretty good. I mean, the holes are there for anything that I need. That would go in there if it wasn't broke, but anyway, that's not really a big deal. It's just a harness. So we're gonna get this thing bolted in and then get this thing tidied up, because it is raining. It is dripping a little bit better now, so not pouring like it was. So we're gonna finish this side up, and then I'm gonna look at the radar. I'm probably not gonna do that other side tonight, but who knows? I may get ambitious and just be done with it. I really want to get this finished up, so we'll see. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is all back together. The bolts are torqued down. All in all, I like the kit. It definitely has a purpose. Gets rid of that brittle plastic once it gets heat to it. Not bad to install. This side is obviously gonna be the easier side. Everything is put back together on this side, and it finally stopped raining a little bit. So hopefully, I'm gonna look at the radar real quick, but hopefully I may just jump in and go ahead and do that other side and be done with it. I don't think it's too bad. The main thing is the fuel pump in the way. We'll have to account for that. But as far as everything goes over here, everything is plugged back up. That needs a little bit more tightening, but yeah, again, not bad. Metal valve cover, new Accell plugs. Went with blue just for, I don't know why, but just went with blue instead of black, so just to be different. And this right here is catch can. Obviously, it keeps oil from being pushed out of the PCV and back into the intake to be burned up, so saves plugs and a lot of carbon buildup. So make sure you change that every oil change at least, if not before. It's kind of small, could be bigger, but for now it works. Let's gonna see about this other side. All right, because I'm stubborn and I clearly see some oil leaks on this side as well, especially around those sensors right there. We're gonna go ahead and start on this side. First things first, loosen that, and then this one down here. Pull your sensors off right here, and we'll get that out of the way. Next thing, we'll be getting that little fuel blanket off, and we'll go from there. All right, so this is everything taken loose except for the fuel pump, and I can't remember, it's been a while since I've done one of these. I'm gonna attempt to just take the 2 bolts loose from the top of the valve cover, and that should slide up and out of the way. I think if I loosen that and a couple of these other bolts, I'm free to kind of get it out of the way, and I don't have to necessarily unplug it and spill fuel everywhere. I can't remember, so we're gonna find out together, but we're gonna start taking this stuff loose. Some of this stuff's in the way. Obviously, we're gonna have to kind of work around it, but this is everything unplugged except for that. Coil packs came out. That back one I already knew was stripped out. You can see the hole back there. That's already stripped out. We already got the bolt out. We're good. I just spun it until it got hot enough. It melted the plastic on the coil, and then we popped it out. Doesn't matter. We're not reusing these, so no big deal there. But this is the plan right now. This side is not near as bad. The coil packs weren't leaking, but we do have leaks around sensors and the edges, and it is dripping oil right there in the bottom down there. So a little bit of oil off the top of that middle sensor right there, but it's not down in the spark plug hole like it was on the other ones. And you can see that kind of there, it's dry in there. So still good, but we're gonna continue on. All right, turns out it's been so long, I did forget about that. So I did have to pull that loose, and that's simply because this line has to kind of bend up out of the way so you can get to these bolts. There's 2 bolts that hold this thing in, this line, and it's metal, so you want to be very careful bending it. You also want to be very careful getting these 2 screws out. This is a 17 millimeter, and then the other end is obviously just to pop the tabs and pull it off. So I will have to snake this one out and that one out. We're gonna continue on, but we'll swap this over on the bench where that way we don't have any trouble of dropping anything down. I did have to take this line loose a little bit from down here. Can't really see it. I wiggled that line loose just enough to bend back to get to these 2 bolts up front, and it may be that I use a wrench on that very front corner because there's not really any room to get in there. I don't want to take all this stuff loose, so we can kind of wiggle it a little bit, maybe get in there, but that is where we're at. Just continue on. Once again, it is raining, so I did this to myself. So it's 10 millimeters to get that pump off, and then what I didn't say earlier is this is a T30 to get this screw out right there. That comes up, and then the only other thing that I didn't cover earlier is there's an alternator bolt. You can see it sticking out down there. That holds this little pedestal for this little lower tube also. So you have to move that to get this bolt in the corner right here. Other than that, pretty straightforward on this side, and there's 2 on the back side up there that are kind of hard to get to, but they're not undoable. I think they're easier than the other back side, in my opinion. And that's what it looks like with the T30 loose and that, and so it should be ready to come up now. A couple of these bolts had just pulled loose, so I went ahead and pulled them loose so I didn't drop them down in there, and yeah. So we should be good to come out. This one should be easier going back in. I don't have quite as much stuff in the way with everything loose that I took loose. So it's a little easier to slide on. Should be easier access too. All right, once again, it's pouring rain, so I can't really show you. It took a good bit of prying to get this off. I don't think this side's ever been off, as you can tell by how much oil is just sitting around here in the base. This is the old one. Obviously, we transferred over the new pieces and parts. These twist out on both sides. A little pair of pliers and just a little force. We put the new gasket in here. We'll put the new gasket on the bottom side. It's very important when you're prying to watch these 2 sensors up here because it's very easy for them to get jammed up, and you don't want that to get broken off or anything like that. Again, it's old brittle plastic, so you just don't want that to happen. So obviously this is the old one, it's junk now. This is the new one, this is the new metal one. It's raining again, so as soon as the rain settles down, we'll pop this in and then finish up this whole system and be done. I'll crank it up, make sure there's no issues, and then use the drive-in to work tomorrow to test it fully, see if it's any better, see if our little misfire goes away, it should, and then this should help long term also with not having oil leaks. All right, as I said, this would go back on pretty easily. I didn't want to leave it open too long. It is still raining, so I wanted to be able to get this back together. Again, we're good around these sensors. We're good on the fuel pump, so we're going to start bolting this thing back together, and then hopefully get this thing nailed down and done here very shortly. Well, I found a problem with these valve covers. The other side went on fine. The QC, I guess, isn't great, but the actual bolt covers have these bolts kind of similar to this. This is actually not feeding down into the hole properly, so it actually will not start. So these two are stuck. So I'm gonna pop this back off real quick, and I may chase the holes a little bit, and then try again with this. Shouldn't hurt anything, but that's the only way I see around this, because those are physically stuck. They're not going anywhere, so I'm not tapping back out. We'll run a bit through there and try to clean them up a little bit, and then put this thing back on. So that's the only problem I've ran into so far with anything being messed up, is just the holes aren't big enough for their own bolts. So I guess that's a QC issue. All right, we are back together on this side. The only thing that we still have left is the top hat cover. We're going to check for leaks and make sure there's no fuel or anything leaking, since we had to take that loose. The only problems we had was the driver's side. I had to remount the holes for the screws to go down in, and that's fine. It happens. It kind of sucks, but you know, not the end of the world. The only other problem that I had, again, 220,000 miles, you get a lot of broken plastic and whatnot. This T-fitting coming off the back of this evap right here decided to break. So as I was putting it back, I heard a snap, and so we went ahead and got another T-fitting. And the clamps weren't great, so I just went ahead and changed that out as well. So we're gonna crank this thing over, and hopefully that should be the end of everything. Make sure there's no leaks, and then we're gonna drive it. All right, so we finished this. Obviously, these are the old valve covers, the Accell plugs I used. You can use generic ones or regular ones, and I'll show you what tools I use as well. These are the tools I used. Obviously, just a junk rag, T30 for that top on the fuel plate, impact driver just to take stuff loose and just kind of get stuff going, ratchet, 10 millimeter, and then a 15 millimeter for that one bolt on the end of the alternator. 10 and an 8, obviously the piece for the impact driver, magnet, various extensions, 2 pair of pliers, 17 mil for the fuel line, 2 picks, long straight screwdriver, and then trim removal tool clip. That's pretty much it. Obviously I had to use my drill to drill out the valve covers. Not everybody may, so I'm not going to include that, but it did happen, so something to be aware of. Thank you all. See you on the next.